This video from Vaush is absolutely insane, and it shows that the line between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism is much thinner than people realize. So let's just go through and I'll explain why.
There was an NYC Israel parade, because of course there was, and Schumer marched alongside, among other people, Smotrich. It was a Nazi parade. Israel's a Nazi government. These people are Nazis. I saw is particularly telling, I think.
So part of the issue, just from the get-go, when you call Israel a Nazi government, you ask, well, how is that the case? What was the uniquely bad thing that Nazi Germany did? It wasn't just the Holocaust. That was bad, but there have been genocides throughout history and ethnic cleansings. The uniquely bad thing about the Nazi government was that they took Jews who were citizens, and stripped them of their rights. That was the issue. The uniquely evil thing about Germany was that they were the biggest example of a post-Enlightenment nation, after the idea of the nation state, after the idea of citizens and rights and protections. They took their own citizens and stripped them of their rights and then genocided them. That was the really bad part, right? It made it uniquely evil because it's one thing, again, not acceptable, but it's one thing to destroy your enemy, a foreigner, but it's another thing to take your own people and destroy them. And, that was the uniquely evil part of Nazi Germany. But in Israel, what do you see? You have a state that has Palestinians who are citizens, who have equal rights and equal protections legally. Those people are not having their lives threatened compared to the Palestinians who are represented by different governments. You can have as many problems as you can think of with Israel, but you have to put into context that it's not Nazi Germany, and there's something more malicious going on of trying to evoke what is seen as the greatest evil internationally when talking about the state of Israel, which we'll develop more in this video, so let's keep going.
I saw this one bit where some Israeli influencers, I don't know if they're Israeli, they certainly love Israel, printed out like AI cardboard posters of Mamdani and Mamdani's wife holding up Israeli flags, which to me speaks to their national predisposition to rape. They really like forcing people into positions they didn't consent to. You know what I mean? Like they really...
I understand it's like a joke partially, but it goes to sort of the insanity of the anti-Israel position that people like Vaush take, where the argument for anti-Zionism and it not being anti-Semitism is you say, well, I'm not talking about the nation of Israel, not the people. I'm talking about the state, the people who run the government. And they want to destroy the state, but of course they want the nation, the people of Israel, the Jews, to survive. That's why they talk about this sort of one-state solution as being a good thing. They argue that one state is a way to protect the people of Israel while also protecting Palestinians. But the issue is when people like Vaush start saying things like they have a national propensity to violating consent in a sexual manner, you're now just doing like ethnic slander. You're applying it to the nation, not the state. You are talking about the people. It's an immutable characteristic that's just in their being. And you're not just talking about Israelis, you're talking about 80% of Jews worldwide. The fact that you can be this openly and maliciously racist, but in a leftist manner, it kind of demonstrates how crazy it is that the Democratic Party is accepting these sort of thoughts increasingly.
Like forcing people to do things, like they laugh at it, they like it. Video had a kid in it, because of course it did. We should call every Zionist and pro-rape, by the way. They are, so feel free to, yeah. There's no such thing as a liberal Zionist. These people are Nazis. Schumer has said over and over and over again, unambiguously, there's no room for misinterpretation here. He's just straightforwardly said it, that he's more loyal to the state of Israel.
And I'm sorry, another thing that bears repeating, you can have, liberal does not just mean good. A liberal state is just a state that is guaranteeing a sort of Bill of Rights protection and a certain propensity of liberal freedoms for their own citizens. A liberal state can still do like insane amounts of imperialism, of colonialism, of ethnic cleansing, whatever. Like a liberal state doing things outside of its own borders is not making it not liberal. The reason people at Vaush want people to think that liberal means progressive is because they're trying to slowly and increasingly encroach upon liberal spaces, get people who identify as liberals to see everything outside of the furthest left progressivism possible as being illiberal. But it's just a lie. I don't know if Vaush doesn't know what liberalism is, but this entire framing is meant to be malicious.
That he is to America. He has said that his job as Senate leader of the Dems is to make young Democrats loyal to Israel, pro-Israel. He has explicitly laid out on biblical grounds the reasoning for Israel to continue to invade and brutalize their neighbors. He is unambiguously a Jewish supremacist. He's a Nazi. The only reason that Nazism doesn't manifest here is for the same reason that like a German Nazi circa the 1930s might be able to get away with keeping their perspectives held in a different country with a different set of, a different population and a different set of political circumstances. This fucker also marched at the parade. Minister Itzhak Vasilov, who called soldiers to smash Palestinian babies on rocks, led the Israel Day Parade in New York today alongside some of the most deranged Israeli MKs and ministers who regularly...
So this is a huge part of why it's very hard to take any pro-Palestinian activists like Vaush seriously, because they lie like they breathe. The minister that tweet is referring to, that Vaush is just repeating like it's a fact, was citing a psalm verse where it's in reference to the original Israelites being persecuted by the Babylonians and calling on and praying to God to have the Babylonians have violence enacted on them by the Persians in the same way that happened to them, meaning that they argued that their babies had been killed by the Babylonians, so that the Persians should do the same to the Babylonians. Is it irresponsible for a minister to say that to, people in the IDF going into combat? I would argue, yes, of course. I think that people with, certain values, Western values, whatever, should hold themselves to a high standard. And I think that's inappropriate, undeniably so, because it doesn't set the right message. But is that the same thing as telling soldiers to go bash babies' heads in? No, obviously any sober person reading this Bible verse and understanding it in context knows it's saying that, you want to go and do what to your enemies what they did to you. You want to enact a revenge. It's not literal. Now, you can have a lot of problems with that, and there's a huge amount of defenses you could have on how that is, unbelievably irresponsible. But notice how these activists don't do that. They just lie. They intentionally take it out of context. They intentionally make it worse than it is, because they don't want to be something with nuance. They don't want there to be any discussion. It's just assassination, character assassination, that is.
The thing, man, there is an Irish Pride Parade, I believe, in New York City, but you don't then have like a legion of Irish neo-Nazis coming over here to schmooze with our politicians over it. You know what I mean? A little bit of a different dealio. Is Mamdani able to ban this parade? I mean, he could probably make it harder for them, but I don't really see why he would do that. They would love that. Zionists would love to whine about that. They love whining. It's fucking disgusting, man.
A massive security operation today by the NYPD for what's being called the world's largest gathering in support of Israel outside of Israel.
New York City mayors usually attend the parade, but this year Mayor Mamdani will not be there. Here's NJ Birkin.
It has always been a top priority for the NYPD, but security...
Oh, I bet.
...for this year's Israel Day Parade will be...
By the way, it's a top priority because Jews consistently are the largest target of hate crimes in the United States and have been for a long time. So, yes, of course, there's a high police presence. And if not literal hate crimes, I just know as someone who's lived near a lot of temples, Jewish organizations and Jewish places of gathering receive a ridiculous amount of bomb threats, especially post October 7th. So, again, it gets really weird when people who are saying, I'm anti-Zionist, not anti-Semitic, start repeating anti-Semitic talking points, but whatever, man.
Unprecedented.
New Yorkers will see the most extensive security plan that the NYPD has ever put together for the Salute to Israel parade, including the largest number of officers ever assigned to that detail.
Spectators will be screened, and counterterrorism teams will line the route.
We will not tolerate any disruptions to the parade. Any unauthorized persons entering the parade route will be arrested.
Sunday's parade is expected to draw tens of thousands of marchers and spectators.
Looks like shit.
This year's theme, Proud Americans, Proud Zionists. Mayor Mamdani, who is not a Zionist, will not be marching.
I said on the campaign trail that I wouldn't be attending the parade, and I've made my views on the Israeli government abundantly clear. And I also said on that same campaign that I would have a responsibility as the mayor of the city to ensure the safety and security of each and every New Yorker.
Mamdani has condemned the October 7th massacre while blasting the Israeli response as an act of genocide.
Become harder and harder to wake up every morning and see more and more Palestinians massacred with our tax dollars.
He's tried to embrace the city's Jewish community.
Tried to. Notice even here, ABC 7 New York, listen to the bias dripping from every word. They bring up his position on October 7th. He's tried to reach out to the Jewish community.
Again, the reason they're saying things in this way, and I think people like Vaush at this point are being purposefully obtuse, you cannot separate Zionism from Jewish people. It's just not possible, because 80% of the Jews in the world are Zionists. The majority of Jews, especially religious Jews in New York, are going to be Zionists in some capacity. So, of course, it's about trying to bridge that gap, because it is something you have to try to do. It's not immediate. It is an effort. Obviously, if you're anti-Zionist, you have to make then the effort to sort of separate the two. You can say that's biased from a newscast, but I think if anything, it reflects well on Mamdani, demonstrating that if it wasn't just trying, then it would be like there is a lack of recognition of the fact that most Jews are Zionists. So it wouldn't even make sense. Again, this just speaks to Mamdani's political effectiveness, if not character. So it's ridiculous for Vaush to frame that as bias,
while holding anti-Zionist and pro-Palestinian views.
As we celebrate
See, he's tried to do X, but he does do Y.
the sounds of the shofar will echo across every corner of our city.
His decision will break a long-standing tradition. The mayor of New York is attended every year, from Eric Adams and Bill de Blasio to Michael Bloomberg and Rudy Giuliani.
I bet.
And his predecessors back to 1965. Rabbi Joe Potasnik served on Mamdani's transition team.
Should he be marching? I think he should. When you're elected mayor, you represent the city of New York, the people who live here.
There are Germans who live in New York. Should the New York City mayor have marched with Nazi parades back in like 1940? Probably.
There's like a really good joke here too, where before you even get to the qualifying of Nazi Germany, no part of Nazi Germany was inseparable from the German character. It wasn't like if you're a German in the United States, you were de facto a Nazi. But if you're a Jewish person, unless you're part of a religious sect or you have very, relatively speaking, far-left views, you're not going to be anti-Zionist to the point that people like Vaush are saying. It's not the same thing, even close. To draw these false equivalencies, again, I think they're trying to do something much more malicious, which is elevate Israel to this ultimate evil without substantiating it, to make this false equivalency because it's easier than actually having to get into the mud and arguing the merits.
Not.
Different opinions. He may have his narrative. We may have our narrative. There's no reason why he can't walk with us.
N.J. Burke, Channel 7, Eyewitness.
I can think of a few reasons. No, it's really disgusting, man. Katie Hochul.
I'm Yisroel Guy. The people Israel live.
Thanks, Chuck. Is it real? It's probably AI. I don't really care. Is this real? Yes. Judeo-Christian Zionist Congress. U.S. Israel Education Association. Something Lion.
Now, I will say, these people are crazy. These people are insane. So you could say a lot about these types because the evangelical types who support these initiatives, they do it for openly anti-Semitic reasons too. So I don't know. That's a whole different story.
I couldn't find any counter-protest videos because it wasn't a protest. It was a parade. This parade's been happening every year for quite a while. So there's not really, it's not really a protest situation, you know?
Hey, we're moving. Thank you to all the people who showed up, because that's what this is about. Today's about who showed up.
It's all fucking old people, because of course it is. The average young Jew is anti-Zionist. Letitia James showed up for some fucking reason. Don't know why she would do this. Super embarrassing. 1.1 likes, 1.1 comments. I just no. There's no such thing as a liberal Zionist. There's no reason to appease anymore.
Again, I've never seen Vaush or anyone in this camp substantiate that. They just say this over and over again. They help you and to be fair, it's working. The more you repeat this stuff, the more it does sit into the public conscience. But where is the evidence for this? Where is the argument for this?
Just shouldn't be here.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox. I'm Ryan Schmelz. It appears the Israel Day Parade in New York City is underway, so we're going to go ahead and listen in live.
Daughter's 4th birthday. The two are related. We must fight for her, my little grandchild, to grow up in a world that's safe for Jewish people. And I worry deeply about the future they're going to inherit. The Holocaust showed the world what Jews have known for millennia, that our security and our safety.
How long do you think they're going to keep talking about it, man? The Zionists? It's been like a century, 2 centuries. I'm sorry.
It has not been 2 centuries. Not even a century, which, by the way, is still in living memory. That's if something's in living memory, man, and it was that bad, it's not that long ago.
My sympathy is just nil when the pretext is directly like they did a Holocaust to us, so we get to do it to other people. Because that's
again, bro. I'm sorry. Where is the evidence for this? You could say that the violence in Palestine is horrific, sure, but they're not at any risk of losing their people, in the sense that the population is growing year after year. It's never reducing. The Jewish population, if I remember, unless I've changed recently, up until at least very recently, the Jewish population is still below what it was prior to the Holocaust. Like, the scale does kind of matter. I mean, intention matters the most, but the problem is if you don't see any comparable scale, where does the intention even come from? If Israel is genociding the Palestinians, how are they so bad at it? How are they the worst people ever at genociding? It just is to call it like we're going to use the Holocaust to validate our own genocide, and not perhaps the argument that the Holocaust makes us that we have to have a country that is predominantly ethnically Jewish so that we are never at risk democratically of being eradicated. Perhaps that is the argument that Schumer is making. Why not contest that argument instead of morally grandstanding about a genocide that doesn't seem to exist?
That's unambiguously what they say. That's like straightforwardly. The guy next to him literally has a Hitler mustache. Is this facial hair? This looks like facial hair right here. And yeah, I will point out, by the way, I think it's super, super weird for a national pride festival to open or have the fucking Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer instantly start talking about the Holocaust. I think that's weird. I think it's weird. I'm sorry. Like, they don't talk about the founding of Israel. Like, it's as though to them,
like, bro, it's one and the same. All the failed aliyahs leading up to everything, the desert that was there, the joke of what Israel was prior to the widespread anti-Semitism of Nazi Germany, prior to the pogroms from Russia. Like, yes, bro, I'm sorry. The founding of Israel, all of the motivations that went into it. Like, why was Herzl even arguing for a foundation of Israel? It was because that Jews were being discriminated, actively against, that they knew Jews were not safe anywhere in the world. To say that they are not deeply interlinked, especially after the fact that the Holocaust gave Israel its sort of national purpose that it established itself with, that the War of Independence was fought along the time that the Holocaust was happening, the same exact time, to pretend like these, again, it's like this sort of activism is irredeemable because it's not connected to reality. It's not factual. Like, you can say it doesn't matter. The Holocaust doesn't matter in regards to these arguments today, but to pretend like they're not interlinked deeply, it's not only not serious. Again, I don't know what it could be besides malice. People like Vaush are not that stupid.
Holocaust is the founding of Israel and must be celebrated as such, like a national, religious, civic, ethnic persecution that it's like you talk about it. They talk about it the way like Moses dragged out the candle wax or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of the mythology, which I think is fucking disgusting.
Bro, most of Jewish mythology is surviving massacres. Yes, most Jewish holidays have something to do with surviving a massacre. Like, just because it's not immediately religious in the same way does not mean you wouldn't have that sort of mythology. Of course you would. How would you ever? How would a people ever recover from such a horrible, almost extinction level event without it becoming a part of their mythology? Of course it would have to be.
It's not mythology. It's not candle wax. It's not a menorah thingamajig or whatever. It's a thing that it was a set of political circumstances.
You can mythologize political events. We mythologize the American Civil War. We mythologize the American Revolutionary War. Part of our national character, our spirit, comes from the mythos of those events. It doesn't have to just be religion. It doesn't have to be something that is metaphysical. It can be grounded real events, of course.
That you're currently recreating. Candle wax, I forget the thing. That's what menorahs are. It's like they only had enough oil or something to keep the candles alight for one day, but it was able to keep a light for 9 or something. I don't know. Lamp oil. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It's the 8. Okay, 8. That was not Moses. Was it like Moses times? Thereabouts? No? I can hear my partner saying no, which I don't appreciate very much. Roman times? Okay, so a long time ago. Fuck you.
Is never safe as long as we lack a place of refuge, a homeland. To quote the great Irish writer Conor Cruz O'Brien,
humiliation ritual.
Anti-Semitism is a light sleeper, and now we are seeing an ugly resurgence of anti-Semitism across the world, driven by the same lies and libels that have tormented the Jewish people for generations, except now they're transmitted at the speed of a fiber optic internet connection.
Which is why we need to limit the First Amendment, like they tried to do with TikTok, and succeeded. TikTok America is now run by a hyper-Zionist.
30 seconds, lies are on your pocket phone.
One, it is a little frustrating because it always goes the other way, where they're fine with censorship of right-leaning, ideologies on social media, or whatever, which I can, respect. But then whenever it cuts against them, well, and I will say, to Vaush's credit, I'm pretty sure he is more like principally free speech oriented than a lot of these guys. But I don't know.
own. That's why a Jewish state is more important than ever. Anti-Semitism isn't going away. It always lingers, stalks in the shadows.
It can't go away because anti-Semitism is like, again, the founding, they can't have it go away. They need anti-Semitism to exist because without it, they couldn't feel the persecution complex that allows them to argue in favor of the genocide they're now committing. They love it. Zionists love anti-Semitism. They love creating it. They love faking it. They love false flagging to indicate. They love it. They love it. They love it so much. It's their favorite thing in the world. Much in the same way that white supremacists on the internet are obsessed with finding and manufacturing and inventing instances of white oppression. Exactly the same as that white supremacist neo-Nazi former employee of Charlie Kirk who was talking to Channel 5, who was like, yeah, there's a two-tier justice system in America. There's the white man, and then on top of him is the black man. Like, they love persecution. They'll invent it where none exists because they need that sense of being persecuted.
Like, the problem is that with that comparison, and interrogate the person who says that black people are oppressive groups in America. Where do you see that in real life? It doesn't exist in the immediate. You have to go to very opaque and esoteric examples that may or may not be even true, but it's not substantial. But for Israel, there's large amounts of countries that in that region that effectively de facto ban Jewish travel, who don't have Jewish citizens, who have parts of their constitution that are anti-Jewish, or who have national slogans calling for the death to Jews. Like, I'm sorry, bro. Yes, the oppression is out there. Anti-Semitism is rising. There are significant amounts of hate crimes recorded. Yes, there is something to be afraid of. Obviously, yes. Again, you can be ultra pro-Palestine. You can have arguments against this stuff, but that's not what's here. This is just lies. It's blatant lies, and it's an inability to confront the very premise of their enemy. They can't figure out how to attack Zionism without making up things. It's ridiculous.
To justify what they do.
Waiting for the right.
So worth remembering that Zionists have as a group killed far more people than American neo-Nazis have in the past, 80 years. I'm just saying in terms of like who's been
Again, like, it's just a stupid thing where it's like the more people you kill, the worse you are. What about all of the Arabs who kill other Arabs? Like the amount of Arab on Arab death that's been unjustified, or the Turks. Like, we don't have the same smoke for these groups. It's just stupid. The numbers utilitarian game is so stupid. No one wins it. It doesn't go anywhere.
Successfully doing Nazi shit,
just fake.
In the past, since 1947, actual existing Nazism, yeah. Hitler huddled in his bunker, making a deal with the devil to ensure Nazism persists even after his death, and the monkey's paw curls.
Conditions. For millennia, let them hear that loud and clear. The Jewish people have yearned for a state of Israel. Whilst
Paramount's general counsel Makan Gelrahim says opposition to the Paramount-Warner merger is driven by anti-Semitism. Yeah, these people are fucking insane. They'll say literally anything, man. They'll say anything. It's actually anti-Semitic to not allow one Nazi to control all American media. The fact that the Ellisons don't control literally...
Now, I will say, I'm so against all of the weird fusion of these media companies, basically greenlit exclusively by the Trump admin for the purpose of Trump propaganda. But two things can be true. Bro, the amount of normalized discussion of genuinely anti-Semitic talking points related to media absolutely is affecting things like this. Now, do I think that's impactful in this specific deal? No, but the problem is it's true. Like, you have to acknowledge when a statement is true.
Everything on earth is actually anti-Semitic.
Experiencing the constant anxiety of knowing the place where they live could violently expel them at any moment, has happened again and again. We must not go back to that era. I believe in the state of Israel. I support the state of Israel. If there had been a state of Israel in 1941, dozens of my ancestors would have been able to flee Nazi persecution.
By the way, this is true. One of the issues what people forget with the early parts of the Nazi occupation or the Nazi takeover is that, like, exterminating Jews was not the, like, step one. That was the final solution for a reason. Part of the issue was that when they were trying to initially deport Jews, right? The problem was these people were, broadly speaking, citizens of the territory they were deporting them from, whether it was, their own, Germany, Austria, whatever, or also places like Poland or parts of the USSR. The issue was no one would take them. Like, this is part of the whole reason why there's a mythos around the Holocaust, because it wasn't just a unique evil from the Nazi Germany. It was a horrific amount of cruelty from the rest of the world where no one would take Jews in knowing that the result would probably be horrific. And Jews had to live with the fact after World War II, the ones that were left, that the major reason that they stopped, because again, obviously Nazism itself is horrific, but a huge part of why they suffered in such a way, why they were almost exterminated, is because no one was willing to take in refugees at any scale, to the point of turning away quite a lot of refugees in different instances, like physically turning away ships. How could you come out of that and not feel like you need a state that will protect your ethnic group? What rational person could come out of that and not believe that? This is a question that people like Vaush will never answer. They will never take this on. They'll reject the premise. But think about that. Logically, there's no way you could ever come out of that sort of event and not think, no one helped us, no one took us in, what else can we do besides forming our own state where we can protect ourselves? It's obvious.
So, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's in Israel or in America or around the world, Am Yisrael Chai. The people Israel live. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please now.
And notice how it's never a celebration of Israeli culture, of its leaders, of its art, of the things that make a country worth living in. It's always a celebration of its political legitimacy and its existence. You know,
because they're politically threatened. Of course, you have to be on. But it's part of the whole issue, and Vaush should know this as someone who fights against MAGA or whatever. When you are on the back foot politically, you have to defend or attack yourself politically. Celebrating joy is why, I think, largely why people like Kamala lost, because liberalism doesn't just succeed, or national movements don't just succeed because you celebrate culture and joy when you're being attacked on political grounds, especially at a political rally. The first point has to be defense. It has to be political defense or a political attack. You can do culture after that, and I'm sure this march had a lot of culture celebration. It's just, again, for someone who's a political commentator, to feign this naivety is ridiculous.
People celebrate, like, when they have an Irish Day Parade, you don't have a bunch of people at the mic saying, the nation of Ireland deserves to exist. Everything it does is good. You usually talk...
Because their borders aren't threatened, dude. No one is sailing ships right now to Ireland. But guess what? I guarantee if you go back to when the Troubles were happening, I guarantee you'll find a lot of speeches, even in places like America, talking about the reason why Ireland deserves to exist independent of the United Kingdom.
Talk about, I don't know, fucking Irish culture, poets, mythology, history, whatever else. But to Zionists, the only reason Israel exists is as a continuation of the project of genocide. There's no point in talking about Israeli art. Israelis don't make art. They just kill people. Why waste your time with even a pretense of...
Again, like, it's just the dehumanizing. This is not... Again, notice how he's talking about Israelis, not the state, not the government. And they're just on YouTube. Probably with monetization. Totally okay that you can just say this shit. It's crazy, dude. Israeli makes art. They're not human. Like, it's just the kind of things he's saying are ridiculous.
Culture is pretending they invented hummus or whatever. That's their shit. They're wholly committed to the political project, so it's the only thing they bother to talk about.
Welcome, an ally who has come to our parade time and again. An ally who came to all of our rallies to bring the hostages home and to bring...
As an Israeli, I can attest this place is fucking cultureless. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it was exactly the same in, like, Rhodesia, you know? The culture of Rhodesia was the settler colonial project. That was it. That was all they had room for. There wasn't really any interest in...
Again, a problem with any culture is that it's going to be an amalgamation of the people who are there. If you go to Israel, the culture is going to predate Israel as a concept. You're going to have culture that comes from Ashkenazi tradition, whether it be food, that would be Eastern European in style, or for the Mizrahi and Sephardics Jews, you would have different culture. Or for the Arabs who live there, you'd have different culture. The point is, Israel is a newer state, but if you're talking about things like music and painters and whatever, you can find plenty of those people, especially because Israel has had a lot of immigration from Jews across the world. So you have artists, you have chefs, you have creators coming across the world who are Jewish to live there. So yes, you do have Israeli art. Just because you're ignorant to it, that you don't want to acknowledge it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Which, by the way, would be the same for a country that's never existed, Palestine. Of course they have art and culture. It's absurdly dehumanizing to argue that any country wouldn't have that, even if you find them abhorrent. This is what I mean. It's dehumanizing language. We're no longer talking about the state. We're talking about the people.
Nation building outside of that.
Lasting peace in the region. I don't forget it. No one should forget it. Please welcome the Attorney General from New York State, Letitia James.
So fucking humiliating. I don't know why she's here.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here today.
You don't know why the Attorney General for a state with a lot of Jews, where they've been having an uptick in hate crimes, would be speaking about an event that is related to Jewish and Israeli pride. come on, man.
This parade is
You're gonna attack the position. Don't be, I don't know why I should be doing this. Is embarrassing. You should know why. You're a political analyst for a career.
an honored tradition in the city of New York.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Israeli culture is like Confederate culture. Is there culture in the states that were Confederate states? Yes. But when people talk about the Confederacy, they never have shit to say about Confederate culture because there is no Confederate culture. The Confederate culture was just wanting more slavery. That was it.
They would argue that Confederate culture would have been Southern United States culture. Now, it doesn't exist because the Confederacy lost and it dissipated. But if the Confederacy was able to survive, yes, of course there'd be Confederate culture. It would have absorbed the culture of the American South because it would have taken on that mythology. That's how nation building works. It's not just, a people don't just stay static. A people can retain new identities. They can have new groupings. This is just, again, this is like it's just, I don't know if it's intentionally ignorant or if it's just an easy way to sort of like dismiss all of the talking points, but he should know better.
The only reason it existed, the political project of the Confederacy was about slavery and racism and murder. And that's it. There's no like broader project there. It's when you defend the Confederacy, that is what you're defending, slavery. Likewise with Israel. There's no project to Israel outside of brutality. That's the only thing they believe in.
We march today in honor of that tradition. We march today in honor of the resilience of the Jewish people. We march in honor of history and of culture. And we march because I, as an African American, stand with the Jewish community against anti-Semitism now and forever.
Embarrassing. Deeply embarrassing.
Because the Jewish community...
Like how Vaush hate this because they hate IDPOL when it comes to international policy. They despise it because she is talking about this from a perspective of Jews and blacks both being people who are oppressed minorities in the context of Western imperialism or whatever. And Vaush would argue that Israel is itself an imperialist state. So realistically, Jews, when they're being discriminated against on the basis of Israeli criticism, not specifically Jewish criticism, that is not problematic. So like this is the kind of thing that makes people like him see it because again, they're more like they're race communists. They are people who see this sort of oppressor versus oppressee before any form of identity that comes afterwards.
These pathetic servile displays of support do absolutely nothing to shore up your numbers.
Again, like I'm sorry, like these like, bro, we are. I'm gonna have to stop this video soon because there's just too much to talk about. Like the idea of using the term servile in the context of this is just laden with some like just true like racial animosity. One, because it's referring to a black person, not to play the IDPOL game, but it's already a strange, a little bit of a weird term to use in a discussion of racism with black Americans because of the history of slavery and servility with that, but also because a very classic anti-Semitic trope is the idea of like the Shabbos Goy or like the servility of the Goyim for Jews. And there's this, we've now combined this with Israel. The idea that everyone in America is servile to Israel in the state. Like, you have to be careful how you use terminology and how you talk about these things because even if your intention isn't to be racist and not racist in like the like phony sense of the word, but truly like inspiring racial hatred, like this is how you do it, man. You have to be more careful. But I don't think that's the problem here. I think Vaush is like an actual anti-Semite. Like there is no difference between anti-Israel and anti-Semitism for someone like Vaush, and it's because of the words they use, the way they describe things.
Will oppose you for re-election or for your political campaigns. AIPAC knows where they stand.
Stood with the African American community when we needed it.
No, AIPAC fucking despises the... Nope. There's actually a long history of Jewish supremacist advocacy orgs in America beefing with, say, the Black Panther Party or Black Rights in America, because as it turns out...
Because those groups are Marxist. That's the reason they beef with them, because those groups castigate Israel as a oppressor state. That's very different from the average black voter, who up until very recently would have been very pro-Israel.
Zionists, by and large, are very racist.
And it's important that individuals see my face and know that the Jewish community is not the only one responsible for standing against anti-Semitism. It requires everyone, all of us, every ethnic group, every racial group. We must stand with the Jewish community because we are one, and that's why we march. And as long as I am the Attorney General...
God willing, one day we pray for an America where Jewish people might be represented in New York City.
My message is clear. To anyone who commits an act of hate or anti-Semitism in the state of New York, you've got to get by this Attorney General, and we will make sure that the law is enforced and that you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. God bless you, and march.
I love the conflation of Israel with the Jews. Yeah, it's pretty anti-Semitic to show up at an Israel Pride Festival.
It's not conflation when 80% of Jews are Zionists. It's not conflation. It's not. Sorry. you can say it's conflation and that's anti-Semitic, but it's the opposite. If you're not considerate of the fact that the majority of them are Zionists, then again, you can just own it. You don't have to hide it. But this idea that you get to hide behind the id pull anti-racism while being racist is ridiculous.
And just talk about Jews the whole time. I'm sorry. I'm not letting them get away with it. I'm not going to pretend this is normal. We would not allow for this in any other context. We all recognized it was weird and racist when Trump started talking about Nigeria exclusively in the context of protecting Christians against Boko Haram. We all know what he was doing there. I'm not going to pretend that the conflation of a national and a religious group isn't weird just because Zionists are insistent on telling me that I'm anti-Semitic if I don't do it.
Thank you. Woo! Thank you, AG. Someone who comes year after year, not just with words, but with actions.
Fuck you.
Unapologetic supporter of the state of Israel, and also courageously does the right thing in investing in Israel bonds because he does right by New Yorkers.
Yeah. How do you support Israel? Not by valuing our culture or our people or supporting us or having the right beliefs, but by buying Israeli bonds to pump more money into the war machine. Yep.
The New York State Comptroller, Tom DiNapoli,
who insists on investing money from municipal employees into the state of Israel so that your retirement funds can be used to fund genocide.
Thank you, Mark and JCRC. Thank you, Eric and UJA. This is a day of celebration, celebrating that deep connection between the people of Israel and the people of New York. The bonds between New York, Jewish community and non-Jewish community in Israel are long-standing. They are deeply held. Today is a day to reaffirm that strong commitment in each and every way. So as we march down Fifth Avenue or up Fifth Avenue, whatever the right way to say it, let's just pray for...
Honestly, it's not really worth going through the rest of the video. I already watched through, and it's really just him listening to the people talking on stage, giving some quips here and there. But I hope it's kind of clear what I'm talking about, and it's not meant to just attack people like Vaush, because the weird like racism attacks that have been employed in the culture war are really dismissive. Usually they're not substantial, and they try to just hide conversations that should be had. But the problem is I don't know how you could ever view people like Vaush at this point as just not being deeply anti-Semitic, if not just simply for the fact that they feign ignorance at the very arguments that are for Zionism that made sense. You can be anti-Israel, you can be the most anti-Israel person on earth and still recognize the validity of those arguments, still understand why the Jewish psychology would reasonably be full of fear in the international world. This sort of just blanket sort of dehumanizing rhetoric and ideas related to the people of Israel, not just the state, it should be called out, because not to say you should deplatform people like Vaush, but they should have to defend those ideas. They shouldn't be able to hide behind this idea that they're being anti-Israel and not anti-Semitic, when they absolutely do, because they themselves talk about how they are referring to the nation, not just the state, the nation and the state, the people, not just the government. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say is, stuff really is frustrating for me, because it's kind of crazy how, much tamer versions of this sort of, language, if it was from a right-wing perspective, would be immediately banned off of every social media platform. But you can just spread this level of anti-Semitism like with leftist phrases, and it's okay, I guess. I don't know. It's whatever. But it's concerning because you're seeing a rise of anti-Semitism on the left and the right. And, unfortunately right now, the left is where we're supposed to be having defenses against the insanity of populism. And instead we're seeing a doubling down with the worst excess perhaps being this sort of growth of anti-Semitism. So that's what I think, guys. A little rambly, but this is like a problem that really, I think is really at the core of all of the insanity that's currently unfolding in our world. So yeah, agree, disagree. Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you liked what this is. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.